I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would please join me. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight and we seek your guidance. We ask you to help us make the best decisions and to do your will for the county, for the taxpayers, for our employees. We also ask for your loving protection for those first responders and those who are serving in our military. Please let them all make it safely home at night. We ask you to protect them and watch over them. We ask all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, I'll call the meeting of June 13th, 24 to order with, and I'll ask for approval of the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, usual sign. Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Kedco, and Susie Light is here to present special projects funding. Good evening, Susie.
Good evening. Peggy sends her regrets for not being here. She will join you at your next meeting, so you can get a chance to meet Pedco's new CEO. She had to be in Syracuse for a Kedco event this evening. So I believe that you have the special projects itemized list of how Kedco has spent special project funds in Q1 and Q2, focused on entrepreneurship, housing, and business development. I want to call special attention to the business development. That is the County Road 1300 North Corridor Project. So funding for the Aban Marsh Consultants at $25,361.88. That is a portion of the contract with Aban Marsh and the township. Is it Van Buren, Joni? Van Buren Township is paying a portion of that work.
The town.
No, it's the Van Buren TIF that is paying. The money's coming out of the Van Buren TIF. 30% of the cost of the project is coming out of Van Buren TIF dollars. She's correct.
That's what we have to report. Are there any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Susie? Any additional comments?
Sure.
Really quick, just to say that I met Peggy today, and I'm just very excited about her future leadership. I think she's going to be a full benefit to our county, and I'm looking forward to working with her.
I don't want to steal her thunder, but she has got some excellent plans for engaging our community and our stakeholders in planning for economic development, and it's going to be pretty exciting. So hang on to your hats, folks. We got some work to do.
Hey.
I was just going to clarify the 30%. That is what the attorney for the redevelopment commission felt was a fair percentage. That is about all that he could justify Van Buren receiving in light of their investment on that. Thanks, Susie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I remind all council members to, I guess everybody has done it now, turn on your microphones. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have not-for-profit 2025 request. And first on that list is 4-H Council, Andrew Farrell, and Entourage. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good.
Good. So I do have an entourage with me. I have a little bit of dual purpose here. The first is the 4-H Council ask, and then there was, I guess, a mix-up a little bit with the agenda items. And I also have a few colleagues just to give you an update on Purdue Extension as a whole. But the 4-H ask is $47,521.71. That's a 2% increase from last year, just with the rise of cost of lots of different supplies and overhead stuff. So far this year, we have served almost 2,800 youth. We've made lots more contacts with that. But we are at somewhere around 78 learning events within the 4-H community. We've got 534 4-H members signed up to go. We've got 142 mini 4-Hers, which is the kindergarten through second grade age divisions. And we are, that all gets done, the fair happens, programming happens, because we have 265 adult volunteers that go through a pretty extensive approval process to make sure that they are safe to work with our youth. And then programming throughout the year has happened. A lot of STEM programming is my main focus. We've got partnerships with Grace College, Baker Youth Club, both Wawasee School Corporation, Warsaw School Corporation, Whitco and Tippecanoe Valley School Corporations. And then our county, I don't know that you know, but our county hosts 4-H camp for Northeast Indiana at Epworth Forest. And that 4-H camp is booked solid with 11 other counties that partner with us on that. So we are getting out there trying to be a huge presence within the youth world in our county. And so we're seeking those dollars as a council to continue those efforts. I did bring with me a few 4-H members. I think that they would like to speak a little bit about the importance that 4-H has had on their lives.
They look very excited.
Oh, they are. Go ahead, Caleb. All right. Introduce yourself.
Okay, so my name is Caleb Blackleitner. I am a third generation 10-year 4-H'er. This will be my last year in 4-H. And Andrew asked me to talk about the impact that 4-H has had on my life. And probably without 4-H, I would definitely not be the person that I am today. It's given me lots of leadership opportunities, abilities to show with my friends, show livestock with my friends and family all over the country, and just meet new people, and yeah, develop the skill set that I have. So I'll forever be grateful for the 4-H program, and we'll always be sure to get back to it. So.
My name is Riley Shepard. I'm a 10-year 4-H member, and my great-grandparents were the first ones in our family to start 4-H. And 4-H's impact that it's had on me is mostly just responsibility. Like, it showed me a lot of life skills that I hadn't acquired yet before. And a lot of that has been just like getting out there, cleaning your animals, or getting out there to feed on time, just because, you know, those are living creatures and you got to be out there to take care of them. But it's also showed me a lot of friendships along the way. I've learned that a lot of people are in this program and would love to be your friend.
Hi, my name is Carter Grady. I'm an 8-year 4-H member, third generation 4-H member. I think to me 4-H, I would say, taught me accountability. It's also helped me with connections in our community. It's helped me grow those connections and give me opportunities that some kids might not have. And I'm really grateful for the program, and I think it's a program that should be carried on for a while.
Very nice job.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, guys. My name is Shayna Messmore. I am the current 4-H Council Secretary for Kosciuszko County. So I think you heard all these guys say it, and I'll repeat it. I am a third generation. My nephew started the fourth generation of 4-H members in our family last year. And boy, what a great tradition for this county to see, and these young men to speak to the responsibility, the connections the community makes. So again, council's asking for a 2% increase just due to standard inflation that we're seeing to continue to support this project and this organization, which does happen to be the largest youth organization in the county. So a great stretch where we're inclusive, diverse, and we're continuing to reach out and get more and more young kids involved so they can one day stand up here and speak to all the traditional and generational impact that 4-H has in Kosciuszko. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have one more colleague with me who's going to give a little bit of an update just on the Purdue Extension side of things.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
My name is Emily Kreska. I am the Ag and Natural Resources Extension Educator with Purdue Extension. So our program year with Purdue Extension runs from August through the end of July. This is what we're kind of reporting on of what we have done since last August until today. So I have completed 64 learning events, 104 hours of instruction, and have made 2,364 contacts since last August. So some of those highlights, I am continuing to work as a member of the Purdue Farm Stress Team. Over the last several months, I was able to teach 7 agriculture behavioral health programs across the state, reaching 426 farmers or those that are involved in agriculture to increase rural and non-rural participant knowledge in identifying the signs and symptoms of stress in someone, how to communicate with someone who is experiencing stress due to current agricultural situations, and then also increasing healthy coping skills, and then also where to find resources. So we know that being involved in agriculture, being a farmer, is a very stressful position, very stressful job. So how can we as the Purdue Extension team, provide those resources, offer, some kind of assistance to, whatever they may be going through. Also in the fall, I had a class of 12 complete the Purdue Extension Master Gardener Basic Training class to become a Master Gardener intern. And I have a total of 40 Master Gardeners now here in Kosciuszko County. So it's continuing to grow, continuing to get some interest there. So also the Kosciuszko County Master Gardener Association hosts monthly educational sessions here in the county that is centered around home horticulture. So far this year, we have educated 79 Kosciuszko County residents on topics such as indoor gardening, native plants, and also healthy soils. So each month, we do a different topic and invite anyone to come to those. I am also partnering with the Lilly Center for Lakes and Streams to offer a Growing Together 4-part gardening journey for specifically women here in Kosciuszko County. So our first 3 topics were centered around growing microgreens and composting, growing seeds indoors and planting your garden. And then we just had one on the benefits of rain barrels, and they got to construct their own rain barrels, and then they also got to take that home. So throughout those couple workshops, we have been able to educate 40 Kosciuszko County women through that workshop. And then lastly, I have been partnering with another A&R educator to offer hands-on women in ag skills training. So our hopes for this is to provide women in agriculture with the knowledge, confidence, and also the expertise or experience needed to excel in various aspects of agricultural work. So our first 2 workshops, the first one we centered around the entrepreneurship opportunity for a cut flower farm. So what are some of the things that go into how can you bring in additional revenue into your farm by developing a cut flower farm. We had 31 women attend that event, and our last one, we had a livestock skills training. So how to properly give injections, how to ear tag, how to tattoo, to give women the confidence to be able to do that on their livestock back at home, and we had 10 for that. So that's just a little snapshot of kind of what I've been doing on the agricultural side. I'll take any questions, if there are any comments. Yes.
I have a comment and a question.
Sure.
First of all, I really appreciate getting your newsletter.
Oh, yes.
And if you would let the newspaper know where they could sign up.
Okay.
Because it gives the agenda of all your things and where you can sign up. And I love it because then I get to come and participate and when I can, so.
Sure.
But you might want to share that
Sure.
contact publicly, so maybe other people could
Sure.
do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions or comments? No?
Okay.
Thank you.
And then we do also have one other educator in our office, but she wasn't able to be here tonight. She is actually down on Purdue's campus teaching for the 4-H Academy, teaching some financials. So she's off doing some programming. So I just have a little update for her. So that is our Health and Human Sciences educator, Shannon Shepard. So from August 1st to June 1st, she conducted 231 lessons and has made 1,520 contacts with adults and 3,642 contacts with youth in Kosciuszko County. Her two big programs were Captain Cash and Reality Store, and this is programming that goes into the schools. The first one, Reality Store, she conducted 7 sessions of Reality Store at Tippecanoe Valley High School and Whitco High School. This Reality Store is a series of interactive sessions, and students are guided through the process of making informed decisions about their future careers, finances, and then also some lifestyle choices. So by engaging in these activities, they get to pick what their future job is or what they want to do when they graduate high school. They create a budget, they are planning meals, and then they get to go into a reality store where it's a kind of like a simulation where they have to go and visit all these different booths, like getting insurance and going to clothing and entertainment, and work off a monthly budget based on the career path that they chose, and then how much of that monthly income. So that was a big impact for those two schools, and I believe she's hoping to expand that to some other high schools in the county as well. The other one she has done is Captain Cash, and this is for the younger group. I believe she did this in 3rd grade, and she did 16 classrooms in Whitley County and then 3 classrooms in Kosciuszko County. And she was able to reach 67 youth specifically here in Kosciuszko County. And through the Captain Cash program, that she equips these young individuals with essential financial skills and knowledge, enabling them to make informed decisions and navigating the complex world of personal finance with confidence and proficiency. So again, introducing financials at a young age to prepare them for those financials later. And then lastly, the last thing she wanted to highlight was she delivered 8 programs to the County Employees Health and Wellness Initiative. Those programs were designed to promote healthy habits, financial literacy, and overall well-being among employees. So throughout those 8 programs, she was able to reach 629 contacts, those for all of those 8 programs. So that is Shannon's update. So,
Good, all right. Anything additional? Okay,
Thank you.
Emily. Next on the agenda, we have Cardinal Services. Vicki Lutens. Good evening, Vicki.
Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing us to make this request. Cardinal is humbly asking for $111,373 for the calendar year of 2025 to support the daily operations of the programs offered by Cardinal, specifically in Head Start, Early Head Start, Healthy Families, and finally CABS. Head Start, Early Head Start, that prepares economically disadvantaged children, birth to age 5, for success in school. We nearly have served 150 children. In 2023, we have 67 families on the waiting list. We always have a waiting list, and that is a requirement of the federal guidelines for Head Start. And then what Head Start and Early Head Start does is in-home supports for birth to age 3. We have 3 classrooms at our location on Buffalo, as well as in schools at Lincoln, Leesburg, Claypool, and Mentone. To qualify for services, you have to be at 100% poverty, which is a little over $31,000 for a family of 4. And then what we're really seeing is an increased occurrence of mental health needs and homelessness. That is 20 or 14% of the enrollment right now receiving mental health services for Head Start, Early Head Start. In Healthy Families, we are coming alongside families that are at risk, supporting them to decrease the occurrence of child abuse. This program is a partnership with the family to learn healthy parenting. And to qualify for that service, just on the initiation, you have to be at a 250% federal poverty under those guidelines. They provide in-home supporting 55 families in 2023 a month. 55 families a month. We have many referring agency partners, so doctors, hospitals, WIC, local Department of Children's Services, as well as family referrals. Our focus is really on parent resilience, social connections, knowledge of parenting and child development, support systems, and social and emotional competency. We had 2 single mothers that obtained last year in 23 their degrees, was able to be self-sufficient and independent, and that is our ultimate goal. And finally, at CABS, the Kosciuszko Area Bus Service, we provide public transportation to all of Kosciuszko County. It is owned by the county, and we administer it. We're about almost 37,000 rides. Right now, that's a slight increase from 22. We project a 5 to 10% increase in 24. Pre-pandemic, we were about 50,000 rides. We are building our ridership back up to that before each year as we're growing. According to the 2023 demographic survey, 72% of all passengers consider cabs their primary mode of transportation. And then 41% of the riders are 55 years and older. The top 3 reasons for utilizing cabs is medical, work, and shopping. And of course, the county funding counts as a local match and helps secure the federal support from Indiana Department of Transportation. When you look at the P&Ls for cabs, we did purchase 2 new buses, so it kind of skews the number. So when you back that out, it goes in and out, you're looking at an operating loss of $74,163. We also have funds, an endowment that we're helping with our sustainability. And so the board of directors has voted 4% of that interest, which is averaging about a $171,000 to $190,000 a year that helps go towards those programs losing money. 50% of our endowment is restricted to children's services, and we do not get enough funding to support Healthy Families, Head Start, and WIC, according to the funding we receive. So that really has helped us with the sustainability piece. We also have a capital campaign. If you have not noticed, if you drove by the facility, we embarked on that, if anybody remembers, August of 2017. So we do have funds, capital funds, also restricted for that as well. I really want to thank the county for their ongoing support, the work we do. We support over 6,500 people annually, and 60% of that is in Kosciuszko County, which is equates to about 4,000 people, individuals. When you count their families, we're at about 7% of the population that we're serving each year. So we also serve 7 counties, and the reason we're in the rural communities is because we are only providing some of those services that are underserved in those surrounding counties. Do you have any questions?
Just a comment. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
The sheriff and I went a couple weeks ago, met with Vicki and got a tour of the facility, which I've had before, but this included a new part and so on. It's amazing the transformation in there. So if you get the chance to go do that, I would suggest you do it.
Absolutely.
Any additional comments or questions? Thank you, Vicki.
Yeah, I had one more thing to share, I forgot. We just started a Boost Lingo app, and I just wanted to share it because it is a great feature. Actually, our Head Start director discovered it. And so what this Boost Lingo, we are serving more and more non-English speaking families. And so this is either a phone call or a video chat 24/7 with over 300 languages. So we use that in all 11 programs. And so it's on demand. So I just wanted to share that because as we want to serve our total population, that has been a game changer for us. So.
What is it called?
Boost Lingo, and happy to send you the information if you need it, Kim, so just let me know.
Well, we're just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Stillwater Hospice. Leslie Friedel. Good evening.
Good evening. I just want to thank you for your support in 2024. It has made a big impact to our organization. In 2023, as you all know, Kosciuszko Home Care and Hospice came under the Stillwater Hospice umbrella, and we're serving even more patients and families today than we were serving prior to that transition. Since the March 1st of last year, we served about 144 patients through our hospice program, and that is about just shy of 9,000 days of people on service in just Kosciuszko County. So we're walking alongside of those families for quite a while. We also serve through our chronic disease management program, and since March of 2023 till earlier of this year, we were serving 21 patients on our chronic disease management program, which those are mainly veterans on that program, which is for a total of 4,378 days of us walking alongside those patients and their families. This year, our request is for the same as it had been previously at $50,000. And we are looking to support those things that come along with hospice care that are not covered by any other means. So those things that we're able to do for patients and their families that are not covered under any reimbursement, things like grief support, patients having the ability to have hospice care regardless of their ability to pay, things like that. So we are, again, thankful for your support. We are working on close to getting our second quarterly report here from this year to you. And I think the numbers are just really speaking for themselves of the impact that this transition has made for the county.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Leslie.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is Kosciuszko County Historical Society, Greg Steffi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have with me this evening my co-director, Sheila Strickland, and she's going to be speaking to you here in a few moments. I'm sure you've all had an opportunity to review your packets. This past year, the Kosciuszko County Historical Society received backing from the county in the amount of $23,230. This year, we have increased our request to $30,000. This is primarily due to increases in our operational costs due to inflation and the fact that to date this year, our donations are down somewhat from where we were last year. Our total payroll is $27,500, so this means that we're dependent to make up the balance of that as well as the entirety of our day-to-day operational costs via grants, donations, and fundraisers. And we're constantly looking for new sources of funding in that regard. We continue to strive to be fiscally responsible with the funds that are allotted to us, and we are eternally grateful to the county for the support that you guys give us, not only fiscally, but from a physical standpoint as well. And I'd like to point out Marcia McSherry, I think, is here this evening. We absolutely could not operate without her and her staff. Those guys are so good to us, and we are very, very grateful for their continuing support. They've always got our back. It's been a very busy year at the museum. Last fall, we embarked on a project to freshen up and brighten up our reception area. That involves some painting, replacement of some worn carpeting, as well as new furniture for our receptionist. Last year, we were also able to install a new security camera system to replace one which had become inoperable. That was done again through grants that we had earmarked specifically for that purpose. Again, one of our primary goals with the organization, we continue to reach out to the community to make them aware of what the organization has to offer, from the collections that we have to share, the educational opportunities, but not only that, our genealogical library, which serves the community. We are constantly doing work on a daily basis to research not only genealogy for local citizens, but we receive on a weekly basis requests literally from all over the country, people wanting to do research on buildings, property, marriage records, death records, that sort of thing. We're constantly working, reaching out to serve the community in that regard. Another very important facet of our outreach to the community is our school outreach program. In the past, we had a very robust school tour program going into COVID. Obviously, that brought that to a screeching halt. It has been kind of slow to recover. However, I am happy to announce that so far to date this year, the number of school tours that we have hosted has exceeded the number of the last 3 years combined. So we feel like we've got that kind of on the rebound and headed in the right direction. In addition to our school tours, we also host a number of open house events throughout the year to bring additional people into the museum, make them aware of what we have to offer the community. Last year in May, we hosted a program to honor our Vietnam-era veterans. And last September, we hosted a delegation from the Potawatomi Indian Nation in Dowagiac, Michigan. They sent representatives down and they presented a program on Native American singing and dancing and culture, which was very well received. That was in conjunction with last year's featured exhibit on Kosciuszko County's rich Native American heritage. This coming week on June the 21st, in conjunction with Third Fridays, we're going to be hosting an event at the museum we're calling Museum Under the Big Top. Now, this is in conjunction with this year's featured event, which celebrates Indiana's rich circus history. And with that event, we're going to be offering some kids' activities with face painting, games, circus-related refreshments. We're going to have a historic Tangley Air Calliope playing all afternoon. 5 o'clock, we have a steamed calliope coming in from Peru to give a concert. Is one of just a handful of such instruments still operational in the United States. And at 7 p.m., we will be hosting a concert by the Peru Circus Concert Band featuring traditional circus music. So we're hoping this will bring in a good crowd. Again, it's going to be in conjunction with the Third Friday, so we should have a good crowd downtown. I'd like to cordially invite all of you to come by and see what we have going on. And with that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Sheila.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to present the Historical Society tonight. The Old Jail Museum was built in 1871 and has been preserved for future generations to enjoy and have the knowledge of our county's history. As Greg has stated, we have been very busy this year, not only with the improvements of our building, but our membership is now close to 500, and our museum visitors have been increased with over 200 so far this year. The increase is mostly because of our new social media platforms, our new website design, all the events that the museum and our genealogy library has to offer, and reaching out to all the 4th grade classrooms in the county, inviting them for a field trip to the museum. However, our computer software program has not been upgraded since 2004. Now, we have the funding through grants to get the setup fees. However, the newest version does come with a yearly fee. We've also written grants to repair and repaint the Pound Store, which is the oldest commercial building still standing in Kosciuszko County. We recently had the open day of the season on June 2nd, and that was well received. And lastly, we are seeking signage for our museum. We have no signage anywhere in our county, allowing our are informing our county visitors that a tourist attraction such as our old jail museum is available. Therefore, we are asking for an increase in our yearly budget to help offset some of these daily operations as our organization grows. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Questions?
I'd just like to make a comment. I had the pleasure of listening to Mr. Steffi at Kiwanis today, and you did a fantastic job in the program. What was really interesting is people were throwing questions out that had nothing to do, and he managed to answer every one of them. I was very impressed.
As long as you can get somebody to believe it, Joni, you got it.
I believed you, I did.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Beaman Home, Renee Saylor. Good evening.
Good evening. Renee Salyer, Executive Director of the Beaman Home. I am here to thank you for all your continued support of the Beaman Home and our services for domestic violence victims in Kosciuszko County. In the previous year, we have served 170 clients in our shelter and 190 clients in our non-residential program. Through those services, we provide counseling, case management, I lost the word, case management, and we do a lot of classes and groups, and then work with the clients to set goals to achieve self-sufficiency free from abuse. Every year, we see multiple children in the shelter that come with their parent, and this past year we saw 59 children in the shelter. And we work on helping the parents with parenting classes, but a lot of times the children are just so traumatized that they need more. And so our goal in the near future is to supply someone for mental health counseling for the children. We are asking for an increase this year to help us with of course, our operations, and we also have a huge project coming up with replacing our flat roof on the building. So that is going to cost us quite a bit of money, and we're piecing that cost together by multiple different grants, and so that we can afford to pay that price of, it's going to be roughly under $80,000. So this year, we're asking for $50,000 to assist us with operational expenses not covered by our other grants and donations. So roughly every year, we have about $150,000 that we need to raise that are not covered by our state federal grants. And I thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you for what you do. It's very
Thank you.
important.
And can you tell
Good
us,
golf outing, by the way.
I was going to
Thank
say,
you.
can you let us know that you try to fundraise also on your own?
Yes, we do.
So
We
will you
have,
share that with us,
we have a
please?
couple different fundraisers throughout the year. One is our golf outing, which we just had, that raised just a little over $12,600 after expenses. It was one of our largest events, of golf events, where we had 35 teams at Stonehenge. And then we have our bingo event, which is huge, and it's grown so much that we've had to rent a bigger facility at the Grace College Orthopedic Capital Center. So we can do a lot more, sell a lot more tickets and have more fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Kosciuszko Community Senior Services, David Neff. Good evening, David.
Good evening. I would like to start off with probably the same joke I did last year. I would do like 4-H and bring some of my seniors, but they're all in bed right now, so. I want to talk a little bit about conceptually with seniors. I sometimes sound like I'm anti-youth services when I advocate for seniors, but if you think about all the not-for-profits, all the schools, all the organizations that help kids, and I was Baker's Boys Club Boy of the Year 74. I like to say that because I beat out Tracy Furnival, and now he's the director. That's kind of fun for me, but if you think about schools and all these not-for-profits, and God bless them all, God bless them all. But how many other than us can you think of that help seniors? I don't see any hands.
Is that a trick question?
No. We're it. And the demographics of Kosciuszko County, approximately the same amount of school-age people as over 60. So, and I never would expect it to be 50-50. You know, it's never going to be that way, but 95-5 might be reasonable. Anyhow, we were talking about fundraisers. I know Tony had a good time at the Dueling Piano. We had a fundraiser last summer that did quite well, especially for our first fundraiser. It was at the Owl's Nest, and for a first fundraiser, it was spot on. One of our partnerships is with Vicky and Cardinal Services. We've started a really good thing with home-delivered meals. Now, Cardinal came and asked me, could they help by having their clients be volunteers to deliver meals? So they're driven by Cardinal staff, but Cardinal clients are delivering home-delivered meals, at least one route a day. That's a really cool partnership. We also, as I've told you guys, their mechanic at Cabs is top-notch, and we can't afford to have a mechanic for us, so we just pay Cabs. That goes towards their local match. In fact, I'm going to be talking, I'll be in Cardinal's office tomorrow talking about some issues. So there is some great collaborations with not-for-profits. And one of the people that we helped that was at the fundraiser was a 100-year-old Charlie Gardner, which I know a lot of you are familiar with Charlie. He's a Normandy veteran, and he is feisty. He's 100 years old. He still drives. He's clear of thinking. He shakes your hand, and he's got a grip like you wouldn't believe. His favorite trick is when you go to the pharmacy, they always ask your birthday to get a prescription. He'll say 7/3/23, and that gets a look every single time. So I know, and I'd be happy to ask any questions. We did take care of the accounting, so the county's money is going just for home-delivered meals and transportation. We've taken care of that. But the cuts keep coming for us. They keep coming. And it's a little bit of uncertainty with Indianapolis come July 1st. We don't know what that's going to look like with Medicaid situations, so we'll just have to wait and see. Having said that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions?
I don't have anything.
I just don't think I heard Tony sing, though.
And you probably won't.
Probably won't, okay.
But
Probably.
I've already been asked by somebody from your organization, would it be a table sponsor again at the fundraiser this year?
Is her first name start with an A?
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
to me already.
This was a male,
Okay.
so I said, sure, why not?
Yeah, it'd be Ashley.
Yeah.
Ashley is one of our top-notch board members. Her grandparents delivered meals for years and years and years, and it was very important for them. And unfortunately, they both passed away, but they asked me to speak at the eulogy. And the amount of meals that Sharon and Jim delivered over, oh my God, tens of thousands of meals. And it helped keep them young. Are you going to do it, Tony?
I already said yes.
Hey! I'll leave on a winner.
Thank you, Dave.
Do I got them all?
And
Thank
when
you.
is this? Can you announce? the date?
Yes, September 28th.
There you go.
It's going to have a Hawaiian theme. We have dueling pianos again. It's at the Owl's Nest. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have an observation to make about all of the nonprofits. You know, we had always encouraged to try to find other sources of revenue, and I think you're all working very hard to do that, and I see
There-
that as a real plus.
We have found more than just the fundraiser. We're doing a lot more things. We've had a little breakfast fundraiser. Didn't raise as much money, but it was still successful. So we're doing everything we can to raise money.
Which is also helping awareness in the community of what you do. So,
Correct.
good job.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thanks.
Next up, St. Joe River Basin, Matt Mearsman. Good evening, Matt.
Good evening, everyone.
Long time no see.
Yeah, right? Thank you. So my name is Matt Mearsman. I technically am an employee of the Michiana Area Council of Governments, but I serve the St. Joseph River Basin Commission, which is technically an agency of the state, so we're a little different than the others, but we rely on the support of our local government members for our basic operations. We have 6, so you might, I don't know what I would say, the St. Joe River doesn't go through Kosciuszko County, but about 20% of the county does drain to the St. Joe River, and that's the 6 counties that make up our membership. And as much as I appreciate the financial support, it's the participation that really makes things go. And Kosciuszko County is well represented on our commission with 5 different members. We were created back in the 80s to address water quality concerns and have been expanded to also look at flood mitigation. We do all different kinds of things, but really the primary function is to serve as a forum for the discussion, study, and evaluation. So we do studies, water monitoring, all kinds of stuff like that. Because we are a little different, I just want to mention to Sue Ann's point about the, efforts to raise money outside. We don't do traditional fundraisers, but I am very proud. We've got a couple people working with us, MACOG employees, who've helped secure, I think it's close to $20,000 in grants for our local members on projects. And then we are able to take, so we rely on the appropriations you all make, and I'm looking for about $4,000 this year. It's about $100 more than what we asked for last year, and that's divided up amongst all of our member counties based on the statute that's in code, based on land area. Anyway, we rely on that to keep the doors open, but that allows us to access over $100,000 in state funding. So it is a 2-to-1 leveraging, your funds that come in, and then the participation that you have by your members ensures that Kosciuszko County gets a piece of those funds. So I'll stop with that and ask if there's any questions. I could tell you all about water, but I know it's a long night, so.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Matt?
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Safe Harbor Child Advocacy Center, Kelly Bug.
Hello.
Good evening, Kelly.
I'm Kelly Bug, excuse me, and I'm the director of Safe Harbor Child Advocacy Center. And at Safe Harbor, we do forensic interviewing of child victims. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me tonight. Safe Harbor is a 501c3 organization, and our mission is to provide a safe and child-friendly environment for child victims to be interviewed. And that also allows us to provide support to families through the investigation process. We're a secure facility. We're located in the west end of the K-21 Health Services Pavilion. We have the ability to have our own entrance. And then we also have an entrance where our team members, who are law enforcement, the DCS, the prosecutor's office, and Bowen Center, they all can come in a separate door than what the families come in. So when the kids come in, they see me. I tell them that there are going to be people watching, but they don't know that it's a whole table full of people. So the interview takes place in a child-friendly room where there's a camera and actually 2 cameras and a microphone, and that interview is recorded so that kids aren't interviewed by the DCS separately, then by law enforcement, then Bowen Center, then the prosecutor. There's only one interview of the child victims unless something else develops during the investigation. And then my team watches that interview. I wear an earpiece and they can radio in questions to me so that, the kids aren't, again, overwhelmed by all those people. And then that statement that the child provides is given to the DCS, to law enforcement, and the prosecutor for their purposes. The DCS uses it to make decisions about child safety. Law enforcement uses it to build their case. And then, of course, the prosecutor uses it in prosecution or deciding not to prosecute, whichever applies. We also have a mental health professional, someone from Bowen Center that's on our team. And she is able to, after the interview, go in and talk with the parents and immediately set up counseling for that child if they need it, which eliminates them being on the phone, parents being on the phone with Bowen Center for who knows how long. So it's just really the best way for us to treat child victims and the families, rather than all of the different interactions. It gets everybody to the table. All those people that are on the team, those are decision makers, and they can come up with a plan for what's going to happen next. And then everybody knows the plan, so it eliminates all the emails, the phone calls, and cases getting dropped. And then we have a monthly case review where we go over those cases that are open and update the whole team on what's happening with them. And that's a chance for everybody to collaborate, and the new people to learn from the older people how to do an investigation. So, law enforcement and DCS are our partners, and we love them, but they simply don't have a child-friendly place to do those interviews. It's not their fault, but they don't. We're it. And we are the only county, surrounding counties who has an advocacy center. So occasionally, I just came from an interview from Marshall County. And we've done Noble, Wabash, Marshall, Fulton, but primarily we do Kosciuszko County. About 96% are Kosciuszko County cases. So we're funded through the Victims of Crime Act. Do y'all know what that is? Okay. Anybody not know? Do you want me to explain it? The Victims of Crime Act is a federal fund. And all of the white collar crime, like bank fraud, tax evasion, all those big fines and fees go into that fund. And that's what funds services for victims. So last funding grant cycle, they cut us 25%. And they've told us they're going to cut even more this time, but we don't know how much. I should hear in the next couple of weeks how much it's going to be. We also get a grant from DCS. I don't know how much that's going to be. Last time it was $15,000, which was for 2 years. So that's not very much. I write some local grants. We have an emotional support dog that's funded by Dane and Mary Louise Miller Foundation. That, when the interview's all done and the kids go back to the parents, the emotional support dog comes in and it changes the child's focus to something positive and something fun. So that program has been huge for us, and we don't want to lose that program either. So without a child advocacy center, law enforcement and DCS are going to be forced to do their own interviews in the DCS office or schools or the police station, past the John Dillinger exhibit, and a big machine gun, or in homes, and those aren't ideal for kids. So I'm asking for $20,000, and that is just to help pay operational costs.
Can you talk about staffing?
It's me.
Okay.
I'm the only one now, but we're,
25?
besides the emotional support dog.
Okay, and what are you looking at for 2025, since it
Yeah.
went up a lot?
Yes, we are looking to add a victim's advocate.
Okay.
We're working towards getting accredited. The National Children's Alliance is the accrediting agency for child advocacy centers. And one of the things that they require is a victim's advocate. And we really do need one.
Yeah, we don't have one.
We don't have one for children.
I don't think we have, do we have one for?
We have Linda.
Okay, we do have one, okay.
Yeah, she does the adults, and she can do children when it comes to get ready for the court process. But we really need one that can hook families up with other services besides mental health. Bowen Center can help us get kids linked to mental health. But there's so much other stuff available that if we had a victim's advocate, they could do that.
This has been a long time in the process.
Yes.
I know we've been hearing about this for years and years, and I think it's wonderful that it's finally actually happening.
Thank you. And I'm cheap. I'm really frugal with my money.
You're conservative. It sounds so much nicer.
Okay, well, conservative. I spend the money at the center wisely. There's nothing frugal there. And so I appreciate that. And if you choose to support us, your money will be spent wisely.
Now, do you
Kelly
all-
and I worked together many, many years.
30 years?
30-some years, doing those interviews at police stations or the back room at DCS or whatever. And she called me last year and said, you haven't been out to see my facility yet, you need to come out. So I went out and she gave me a tour of it. And I'm telling you, for our county and what we got, it's top-notch.
That's really great. The Beeman
just-
home also has rooms that are very
But this is
friendly.
just so,
They don't have
Child-friendly.
cameras, though.
Yes.
We need the camera and the two, we actually have two cameras, so you can get the face of the child and then the whole picture. So I have pictures of the center if anybody wants to see them.
Sure. Do you also work with CASA?
No. CASA has a whole different mission. Their responsibility is to advocate for the child in court. My responsibility is to do that forensic interview,
Gotcha.
so.
So that,
It's-
those would not
it's-
be shared?
No.
Okay.
It's confusing, isn't it? Because it's
No,
advocacy.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
They're very
Lots of people
different
ask me that
things.
question.
Okay.
How busy are you? On a month basis, how many?
In May, we did 23.
Wow, is that common?
No, that's a lot.
Is summer more than winter usually, or vice versa?
There's no method to the madness. I wish I could say, because lots of people ask me that question too, but in the summertime, the kids are out of school. A lot of the DCS and law enforcement's reports come from the school. So, but it seems like there's more sexual abuse in the summer, don't you think?
yeah.
All right, thank you.
So I do have one more question. And it just left my mind, I'm sorry. The other counties. Do the other counties contribute anything to your mission?
They don't. And you know what? Before we had a center, we had to go to Fort Wayne and South Bend and Elkhart, and they never asked us for anything. So I prioritize Kosciuszko County. You know, like Marshall County called me today and said, we have an emergency, can you do it? I didn't have any interviews for Kosciuszko booked, so I said, okay.
Okay. No, I'm just
Yeah.
curious as to.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Kelly.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Kelly.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I think everyone. I think everyone had a spreadsheet at the end, and if my math is correct or even close, last year, the council approved $298,592.91 for nonprofits or not-for-profits. This year, we're looking at $352,802.71, so approximately a $54,000 increase. That's what we're looking at.
Okay.
All right. Next up is EMA KIP. I do not see. So say, it didn't look like KIP.
Sorry to disappoint you. I know Kip presented on this last week, and I think he's emailed you all directly. We've worked together on this. He's filed for a Homeland Security grant for fiber. So currently, our connection to work release and highway is through radios. We have 2 radios at the top of the courthouse. One beams to work release and one beams to highway. And we've had that for many years, and that works fairly well. But long-term, we want to eventually make highway our DR site, our disaster recovery area. So we like to have backups out there. So it'd be nice to have a more stable connection. So that's kind of a long-term plan, and this grant's part of that, so.
So this is just a redundant system for what we have in place.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay, all right. Okay, and it is for $132,432. Correct.
I make a motion to approve
Somebody-
with the background music.
I'll second that if somebody didn't already.
I
do
did.
that.
Okay, Joni, you have a?
I motioned, she seconded.
Okay, we have a
We're still
motion
trying
from
to find the
Joni,
phone.
a second from Kim, and a nice little tune in the background. All those in favor, usual sign.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Kathy Reed. Good evening, Kathy.
Hello there.
Now, council, what this is the recommendations that were brought before the wage committee. This is just, right now, department heads telling us what they would like to include in their 2025 budget, and then we will deal with this at budget time. But this allows them, the committee makes a recommendation, or making a recommendation to full council to allow these to be included in the 2025 budget process. and then at budget time, then we will address them. Okay,
Okay,
thank you, Kathy.
yes. Do you want me to read through this?
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the first
That's what I
one.
meant.
Okay. The first one I have is for the auditor's office. Their request was for a new position called a financial deputy/grant administrator. And they also would like to change the title of account number 11062 to that same title. And then that employee that's in 11062 will be training this new employee and then be taking over when that employee retires. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you follow all
Yes.
that? Okay.
Okay.
So the Wage Committee's recommendation is to approve the request for the new financial deputy/grant administrator and the classification change for account number 11062.
Should we do each one separately?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve that.
Do we have a second?
So
To
we're
allow
just,
this into the 2025 budget process.
No, we're going to make a decision on
I
this
didn't
matter.
think we were going to
We're a
decide
little
anything.
confused.
For budget.
Well, we're allowed, do we
Those-
want to? add
We
the-
don't need to vote.
Those are
though.
your recommendations.
Those are
Just
recommendations.
strictly recommendation
Yeah.
tonight is
Yes.
all you want? Okay, fair enough. Okay, no vote.
Moving along.
Move
Okay.
along.
Systems Administration. Their request is to, they wanted to update some job descriptions. And they also are requesting a new position called a technology assistant. So this will be when Bob and Paul retire, then it'll be left with two instead of the four that we have now. And then they'd like to hire one new. So we'll have 3 IT individuals helping us out. With the 4 of them right now, they've been able to get a lot accomplished, a lot of stuff that Bob and Paul haven't been able to get to because they've been backlogged and it's been on the back burner. So they've been knocking out a lot of stuff. And so this need has been coming to have 3 instead of just 2. So the Wage Committee recommendation is to approve all the job description updates and to also approve the new technology assistant position. Okay, the next one is for probation. This was for a re-entry court coordinator/case manager. This is a new position. The Wage Committee recommendation is to approve the request for this re-entry court coordinator case manager for the re-entry court, with the understanding that if the funding goes away, the position goes away.
Can you expand a little bit? What the reentry court coordinator, boy, that's a mouthful and a half.
Yes.
Are they going to work with the sheriffs? Can you explain how that,
It's a
thank
separate
you.
program. It's through probation. It's going to be run with Judge McGrath's court. They're not the same, but I think we'll work a lot together with each other. This is if somebody's already been sentenced, they might get a sentence modification. It's another problem-solving court, much like the drug court.
Okay.
We have requested funding with IOCS. We have not heard yet if we received it. It wasn't due until May 12th. So it's only been a month out, so we will be chasing the money for as long as this program is. We understand that. This person will also will have to know how to do grants and things like that.
So this is just in support of Karen, or Judge McGrath's new court, is that correct? Or
This would be,
a supporting role for that new,
it would be the new, it's a new problem-solving court
Right.
that would be run out of.
Correct.
Yes,
yes.
Okay. So, okay. Thank you. You answered it you answered my question, so we're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any others on that? Okay. The next one I have is for EMA. And he is requesting a part-time EMA coordinator to help with things that he's not able to get to as a one-man show, There's some stuff that he doesn't have time to take care of. This person could come in, take care of that. So he's requesting for a part-time person to help with that. And the Wage Committee recommendation is to approve the request for the part-time EMA coordinator.
I have a question on that. So doesn't that department have a grant that pays for a part-time person to help him?
It pays for half of the wages for him and his administrative assistant.
So are we not using that person, or how's that working?
That person does the LAPC minutes and a couple other things for him, but mainly her duties are in the county administrator's office.
Okay.
But she does help out with a few things.
Because I thought it was a half and half
It's
last
supposed to
year.
be a half and half. I mean, that's the way the grant was
Oh,
written,
right.
is it's half and half. So we're curious why we would add another person to do something we're already paying for.
I think it's because his administrative assistant, this would be more of a coordinator, not a clerical. It'd be more like boots on the ground kind of stuff. And I think it's the timing too of the individual to share, her running over to do that kind of thing and being out of the office. So it just,
I have severe
Wouldn't work.
hesitation because we already supposedly have someone
Right.
that we're paying salary and benefits for
Sure.
that's supposed to be doing half-time there.
right.
Doesn't appear that that's working out, but that's what the grant is written for.
Right. Some of the things that this coordinator position would be doing would be, let's see, they would help with the volunteers, oversee the CERT program. We had a CERT program back in the day. It was super beneficial to the county. It's since has gone by the wayside just because there's not enough manpower to support it.
Can you explain what that is?
Sure. Okay, it's a community emergency response team.
Okay.
Yes, so it's individuals in the county that volunteer their time, and they come and they get trained on how to turn off the gas at a house, how to put out a fire, how to triage, how to do some wound care, CPR, that kind of stuff. They learn all those basic, so like if there's a natural disaster, we can call on them, they can go out, they can go canvass a neighborhood, they can help the first responders.
Okay.
I don't even know how many classes we did. I want to say 20 or more classes, and there's usually like 16 people per class. I mean, we trained a lot of people. Indiana Guard Reserve, we trained all their people, so they were a resource to us as well. So, yeah. So this person would be kind of getting that back going again.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last one I have is for the sheriff's office. So they're at a work release, they have a cook, and she's part-time right now. And they would like her to be full-time. There's increase in population, and the need is there at this point to make it full-time. They're also requesting 4 new jailer positions, 1 new deputy, and a new traffic administrative sergeant. And the wage committee recommendation is to approve the request for the 4 jailers, the 1 deputy, and the 1 traffic admin sergeant, and to move the work release cook from part-time to full-time. Any questions on that?
And Kathy?
Yeah.
You have been in conference with Wagner and Shealy on a lot of these new
Yes.
positions.
Yes, yeah, they've received all these, and we've updated the job descriptions with them, and they've done wage classification if it needed to have that happen, so, yeah.
All right.
Thank you for explaining some things.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Dave?
I got yeah, at some point, I mean, obviously, I'm not on the wage committee, so I'm not sure. I assume they came in and everybody's making their pitch for this, because every time I hear new position, I'm hearing $75,000, $100,000 on every one of them, unless it's paid by a grant. Are we as members going to be able to hear some of the reasons for all of these
Yes,
things?
that's what we'll do at budget time.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna say,
Go ahead.
unless they're gonna tell us now. I don't know.
Prepared to answer questions now if you wish, or if you want to wait till budget time, either way.
I wouldn't mind hearing
If
if
you
you have a moment.
if you want to answer some questions now, that's perfectly fine.
Well, specifically,
Well, you have several staff members that
Yeah.
you want to add, so can you?
yeah, so let's start at
share?
work release. So when I started, took office, we were at 50 inmates at work release. We're now hovering right around 80. So obviously the need's there for, and it's a part-time cook that's trying to make all the meals work with the help of trustees out there. Generally, the way that works is when we grant somebody to be able to go out to work release from the jail, they don't go to work right away. They still got a little bit of trust they need to earn from the staff out there. So it's a trustee duty. So those are the people that are generally helping in the kitchen. And that works. However, when you go from 50 to 80 inmates, and that was by my, request with my director out there, an effort to try and reduce the population in the jail here, that's kind of the response to that. I think I met with all my commanders at the end of last year, and we had very in-depth conversations, and this was a request from Jared Jones. He said, Sheriff, I can get through this year, but I really think this is something we need to look at. I'm like, well, sell me on it, because I'm the one that's going to be talking to the council. And he did a good job convincing me, and the proof's in the pudding with going from 50 to 80. Just the desire, the need is there on that one. When you talk about the jail staff, look, first thing that comes to my mind is the mental health. Out here, our deputies are dealing with more and more mental health calls. That doesn't change just because they're in jail. Mental health issues are on the rise. When you have those, you deal with them in a way that it takes more than one deputy oftentimes. We have to make sure that our staff are safe. We also need to make sure that the inmates are safe as well. And we run on 4 shifts of 12. 4 shifts, 12-hour shifts, just like we do on the road. These requests for 4 deputies or 4 jailers is going to give each one of those shifts another jailer on those shifts.
Would that make you fully, I know that there's been a long time that you've been short-staffed in the jail.
Yeah.
Would this answer that completely?
Will certainly help.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many are you still short? I'd just like to know.
Well, we're fully staffed for what we have on the roster right now. I can tell you that we're fully staffed in the jail. But when you start looking through our jail inspection report and what they recommend, the ratio with the inmates and guards, I don't know, as long as I've ever been here, if we've ever actually hit those numbers. It's always been, we've been in the red in that regard. But this is definitely an effort to increase that. Our numbers are low right now as far as inmates. We're sitting right around 230.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Yes, compared to where they've been moving up to this point. And there for a while, we were running around 280.
Before budget time, if you could let us know exactly how many they recommend you have and how many you have.
100%.
I would just like to know
Yes,
that.
yeah. Anytime you guys want to know, I will. I look at it every day, more than I probably should. Is it up and down? But the other thing is too, last year we transported, we had 43,000 miles transporting inmates. Wow. All over the place. Picking them up from prison, bringing them here for court dates, taking them back, other county jails, bringing them back for their court dates, so on and so forth. It's very, very busy. Some of those of which it take more than one guard to transport, depending on their charges and that sort of thing. Some other notes that I have, the tablets have proved themselves to be very, very good things back there, right? It keeps the inmates busy. There's work that goes in with it with our guards. They're collecting them every night. We don't keep them in the blocks. We collect them every night. We have to inspect them, make sure they're not damaged, because if they're damaged, we're going to hold somebody accountable because they're assigned to somebody. We plug them in, and then we have another guard in the morning. When they come in, they're reissuing them. So that's something new now compared to before I took office. It's just added responsibility, but it's all an effort to reduce the liability in the end. Because if they're busy on the tablets, they're not fighting and they're not breaking things and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where we're at. And I could go on, and I'll be more than happy to expound on it even further when we get into the budget time. But that's what I have for the jail. Those are the biggest issues that top out for me. Now, when you talk about the deputy position, I know it's a little confusing the way we had to do this. There was a captain's rank that the last administration felt that they needed in their rank structure. I have a little bit different perspective on it. I don't feel like I'm in a position to have that captain. Rather, you got myself and you got chief deputy, and I like to have a commander over every division. So what we did with that captain's rank, we actually recently promoted Travis Shively. He's been our training sergeant. Now he's training lieutenant, but he also does all the, the liability piece and the SOPs and all that stuff. It's very important to all of us, and in terms of lawsuits and that sort of thing. Of those monies, I think that's how we were going to do it, right? Because there's going to be leftover money to the training sergeant. right?
Yeah, the part of the captain
funded the
new deputy.
Okay. The traffic sergeant, where that comes from is this, and I think this week it's going to happen at a, you know, and I hate saying it this way because it's tragic that it's happened. We've had 2 fatalities this week, one last night, one 2 days ago. The more we increase the population, especially this time of year, the roads are very busy, more accidents, more serious accidents. We have a crash team that their responsibilities, they're charged with putting together those investigations. I got to tell you, the man standing next to me can talk about it way better than I can, but it's not one that you just do outside of the road and you send it off and you're done. These take weeks, months, in some cases even longer than that to complete. We've entered a time, and it kind of goes along with that same thought process, rather than a captain, where do we need the positions within the department? My staff and I, we really did a deep dive into this and analyzed it. A traffic sergeant, it's time for that. It's time to have somebody that can focus on putting those reports together when you have a serious bodily or a fatality in a timely manner. It's not that we're not getting them done now. We're not getting them done as fast as I'd like to get them done for the closure for the families, because there's always somebody that's affected by these. We're getting them done, but I think we can do it in a lot more timely. And right now, they're doing it as they have time in between calls and their other responsibilities. Where if I have a traffic person that's assigned to those, and in addition to that, we get a lot of traffic complaints, speeders here, this sort of thing. And my mind and my vision is that we'll be able to, address those issues, but not shortchange our shifts. Again, the road has 4 shifts, 12-hour shifts. This would add, they would still have the same amount, with 6 on each shift, and still have that traffic person to address those needs. So, yeah.
So maybe do some analytics is what you're saying also,
Yeah.
as far as like where things are happening and be able to maybe.
Yes, and we have
direct your people.
Correct.
In a little bit better way.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Kim. And we also have the traffic speed signs that are out there that we all kind of, whoever has time to go out there and move them and put batteries in them and that sort of thing. This traffic person, I mean, everything traffic, this sergeant would be handling those types of things. And traffic's a big part of what we deal with. We work a lot of accidents and get a lot of speeding calls, so.
Jim, I just would like to compliment you and Chris and your team.
Yeah, thank you.
You have really brought the numbers down in the jail, and you have done a lot of really proactive things that I think are very beneficial for our entire county population. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Any other questions? Is it?
Yeah, I feel better about it. Like I said, property taxes are going crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is all this gonna go into that? Because this goes into the base, and once it's here every year. And I just had some questions on it.
Yeah, and I think to me, it's rather than wishing that we would have later on, the time is now, and I mean, it's a need that we can, we need to at least look at. And I think Kevin Gilboa, the jail commander, I put a lot of pressure on that man, and he does a great job for us. And we're lucky to have him. And he doesn't ask for much. But when, again, we had those conversations with each of those commanders, and he said, Sheriff, I wouldn't ask for him if I didn't need him. And I said, Kevin, I'm not in the business of going to ask for this and hope I get that. We need to be on the same page on where we're at, and that's where we're at with it. I mean, it'll give another officer to each shift. You got to remember too, I think that we've all talked about, and I talked about this in the last meeting we had. Every time that we send an inmate out to the hospital, we don't just send the inmate out there. There's a guard, at least one guard with them. And every time we do that, we're taking away from the jail. So that's a liability that we're always looking at too, if we're short-handed back into, trying to satisfy everything. That would certainly help in those regards when we have to pull one away for something else.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff. Is there any
I
other
wanted to comment
comments?
to Dave, and I haven't been into a couple of the more recent wage committees, but in prior ones, the really cool thing about the Sheriff's Department currently is that not only are they redirecting the services where they need to go, they're finding ways that, okay, they don't need this position, so they're kind of transferring that. So even though some of this is might be new, it might be just a change of a title. Because you need to change it to something else, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. If there's nothing further, we're going to move on.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Next up is, thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sheriff. Gail Chapman. Good evening, Gail.
Hello.
Hello.
My request is going to be two additional appropriations. One is in my computer equipment budget line for $9,000. The second one is in computer maintenance software for $14,000. Do you want me to explain again the purpose of this, or are you guys comfortable with the pre-meeting of how I explained the situation?
Anyone that would like further explanation?
What'd you say, Dave?
I'm good. I
You're good?
remember what you said before.
This money's coming out of a fund you already have, correct?
That is correct, yes.
We love that about you. I just want you to know, we think it's great when you can come with, want something that you're already funding. Thank you. Yes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve. All those in favor, usual sign. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Sheriff.
Okay, now,
Again.
next. Okay, you're back.
Again.
Sheriff.
Good evening, Council.
Hello, how are you?
This one won't be as long, I don't think, but this is a request for the appropriation for the federal grant, the DNR, that we've done for so many years, $15,000 in total. It allows us to have the Lake Patrol presence out on Tippecanoe Lake and Wawasee and Syracuse.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve. All those in favor? Okay.
It's a great thing.
Thanks.
And isn't,
Oh,
You're not done.
no,
Salary ordinance amendment, it looks like.
What was the next one? Next one was the
Salary ordinance.
the salary ordinance, sorry. Okay, so what we had is a change in positions in the dispatch center. There was a 10-year employee in one position. She basically swapped a leadership role. So she went to a non-leadership role that was not rated for that 10-year rate. So we just need that 10-year bump added into the salary ordinance for the position she moved into.
Any questions on this one?
I'm just confused, but if you've got it figured out, we're okay.
Yeah, it's no different. We're basically moving a 10-year bump from one payroll account to another because
Okay.
she changed to
Gotcha.
a non-leadership
Thank you.
position.
Thank
I should have been more clear on that.
And I'll second it too.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve. All those in favor? Okay, next.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
That's your
the
donation.
next one is the transfer for the difference in that. And again, we're just moving it from one account to another to cover that, what
Gotcha.
we need for the rest of the year.
I'll include my motion to include the
include that?
transfer of the funds from
My-
one account to the other also.
And my second also includes that.
Okay, is everybody good with that? Okay, thank you.
Okay. And my last ask for me tonight is, we're requesting permission to establish a donation fund for the Kosciuszko County Community Recovery Program. We did receive a donation a couple weeks ago earmarked for this program. It was the first one. Obviously, we're hoping to get as much funding and donation for this as possible. So we'd like to, with that first donation, we'd like to establish the fund so we can make sure that we keep those funds that are earmarked for that separate and the books clean.
So I'll make a motion that we allow them to do that.
I'll second that.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, do we need to do more than that, though?
Huh?
Establish more of a fund? I mean, do we need to do any more paperwork on that?
No, we
For
just
that
need
Oh,
the
there's an
ordinance.
ordinance. I wrote an
Okay.
ordinance. I
That you are-
apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
And the
that-
attorney,
okay.
county attorney's already looked at it. It's been through
Okay.
commissioners.
Okay, so we have a motion from
Joni,
Joni
and I second.
and a second from Kathy. All those in favor? Okay. Looks like Chris, you're up next.
See if I can muddy the waters.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Previously, I'd been before you to ask permission to apply for 2 Department of Justice grants. Both of those had to do with our Kosciuszko Community Recovery Program. We did apply for both of those grants, and we have been working with the Department of Justice on trying to secure that funding. And in doing that earlier this week, that member that has been helping us suggested that we apply for yet another grant under the same type of funding request. It's also through the Department of Justice. So it's a Department of Justice grant, and it's called the 2024 Comprehensive Opioid Stimulant and Substance Use Site-Based Program. It's going to be the same, for the same type of program as I've asked you for before. It's going to be for our programming within the KCRP, within the Kosciuszko County Jail. So it'll be for your peer recovery contracts. It'll be for your therapy, your mental health providers, drug testing, any type of programming that would actually go into the program. The grant itself is for $1 million over 3 years. So it would actually substantially fund the program for 3 total years. And the individuals that have been helping us with the grant process at the federal level felt that this grant program fit our program better than the other two. And one of the bright sides to that is actually being awarded to more sites. It is longer funding, and it's actually more substantial in nature as far as all 3 years go. It would begin, if we were awarded it, October 1st of '24. It would run through September of '27. It is not a matching grant, even though in our grant applications, we would show what the county themselves are putting towards the program to help us get the grant approved, but it is not a matching grant.
Great. Any questions?
Yes.
I have 2 questions. One, did you get any kind of attitude after the 3 years? Would it be funded? And 2, like continued, just because I know that they're focusing on this. And then the second question I have is that if the funding goes away, what happens to the program? Or do you have any fee structure that could possibly fill in that gap if you're like proactively for 3 years?
The navigator position that we've
Right.
gone for is our employee.
Correct?
The programming itself is all going to be contractual.
Okay.
So, yes, we would contract with your peer recovery coaches to come in and provide those services, your mental health providers to come in and provide those services. That's what this money would be used for.
Right.
I guess in the end, yes, we would continue to apply for the grants, but no more that I can guarantee you that we'll get this
Right.
grant. Can I guarantee you that we would get any future grant? What I can tell you our goal is to prove to you that we're able to save enough money to make the program itself worthwhile to be used in the Kosciuszko County Jail. So I would tell you that what we're going to hopefully be able to show you over the course of one of these grants, once we land one, is that it is worthwhile, it is money saving, and it's a program worth putting in our facility. And yes, eventually, you know, just like we were just talking about the crash program.
Right.
For 12 years, the crash program was paid for by the state of Indiana through an Indiana Criminal Justice Grant. And while that was going on, all those services were paid for. They were here every day. There was money to pay them to come in and spend time specifically on those investigations. But as with anything else, those grant funds do dry up. I can't make you any guarantees as far as any grant funding. Alls I can tell you is we're going to do our best. We're going to work hard at it, just like we've worked hard at this. And as we get the pieces in place, we're going to try to prove to you that it's worthwhile to have it.
My question is, what if you got all of these grants? They were all awarded to you.
That's a good question, because I asked that very same question, because this will be the 3rd Department of Justice
Yes.
grant that we've applied for, I don't know what, in the last 45 days.
Excellent.
What they told me is, and we did, with the second grant that I asked you for, we had to disclose that we applied for the first grant,
Okay.
which puts you in the hopper that you have 2 in there. We have to disclose at this grant that we applied for the first 2. We will not be awarded
So they're
all
not
3
going
of
to
these
give you all
grants.
3?
And I would venture to tell you that there's a reason this individual suggested us to do this one. She feels like this is the one that fits our program.
Okay. I make a motion to approve allowing you to apply for this 3rd grant, realizing you can't have all 3. That's
Yeah,
so
it's just gonna
sad.
be one.
I thought maybe it was going to be like the lottery or something here.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate you
you.
putting
Thanks,
up with me.
Thank you, Michelle. Administrator, Marcia. Are we asleep yet?
Almost, right?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have one item before you this evening. It is a transfer in the CCD fund from land and improvements to property and liability insurance. If you looked at your packet, you'll see that we are going to be short in that fund approximately $18,000. What we do is when we budget this a year ahead of what we actually get our invoices and find out what our increases are going to be for the property liability and auto insurance, which this is what this covers at this point in time. It also includes the cybersecurity insurance. So we've added on, we're seeing kind of an average here in the last couple of years with new vehicles being purchased. We're seeing about a $7,000 amount of increase in the auto insurance side to cover these new vehicles. So we'd like to cover that, and then we'll just increase accordingly in the next years to come to make sure we're able to cover those as well.
Okay. Any questions? If not, I'll look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Are you a second, Tony? Okay, we have a motion, second. All those in favor? Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you. Not to keep everybody awake or here any longer, but I do have some updates. Justice Building renovation, we started Phase 3 on Monday. All the carpet is out of the 2 courtrooms, the back hallway, and the jury room and judges' chambers and offices back in the back hallway. The front hallway, which will include half of those conference rooms, the main lobby, entrance area, the restrooms, the hallway, carpeting, and wall covering, those will be done in second shift because we don't have the capabilities to get people down to the end of the hallway for the other courtrooms. So I don't have a schedule on when that'll start, but things are moving along rather well. The courthouse, the fire alarm system, the work continues in that area. I would imagine we're probably looking at another 2 to 3 weeks before that is finalized. And that, along with the Justice Building renovation, if you remember, is ARPA funding as well. The Sydney Tower site, I would hope that we're finishing that up here by the end of June. I understand the equipment is here and they're working on getting that set up. We're at the point where we're waiting on the electrical to be run to the site, and then we'll have a few other things to wrap up before they put the equipment in, and we do the testing for that and get that finalized.
Okay. Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, abatement compliances. Do we have a report from the abatement committee?
Sue Ann and I met along with the auditor's office, and we reviewed all of the abatements that are in front of us, and we've determined that they're substantially in compliance, so we recommended that they be continued.
Now, these are 2 abatements for Louis Dreyfus, IDNA, and IGDB Biogas.
Yep,
Okay,
so they're not new abatements, we're just reviewing
just annual reviews,
annual
said
reviews.
3.
compliance reviews. Yes.
3.
Yep. Okay. Do we need a motion and a vote to approve
Yes, you do.
these? Okay, do we have one?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Dave, was that a vote?
And I want to make sure it's clear that I motioned all of them.
Yep. Okay. Moving along, County Council, Mike Long and Kathy Grunner. This is on the Reedy, wait.
Oh, wait,
We have to do encumbering.
Encumbering.
Oh, that's right. Did I skip over one? I have this fly up here that's.
Wait,
She included all of
wait,
them.
I included all of
She
the ones
included
on
that.
our sheet.
Okay,
So,
the only thing that was mentioned was Louis Dreyfus, so I thought maybe you should
so
say the other ones.
Louis Dreyfus, IDNA, IGDB, Biogas LLC. So,
And I'll second.
Okay, you still have a motion and a second. The vote's the same, correct? Okay, let's move forward. Rhonda, sorry. You're up, encumbering.
So the encumbering for this month, for May, is $627,342.59.
Okay, any questions, comments? Okay, a motion, please?
I move we approve.
You want a
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor? Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Okay, the Reedy Group, the commissioners have voted and they have the funding in their budget to pay the fee. They have agreed to enter into a wage analysis with the Reedy Group that will assist the council in making decisions and hopefully assist the auditor's department. There was some questions at our work session as to the scope of their work, and I asked Sue Ann and Kathy to work together to put up a guideline or an outline of what we would expect from the county or from Reedy. And could either of you present what you came up with? Because you did have a meeting this week, correct?
Yes.
And who was
Tuesday.
included in the meeting?
So Tyler with Reedy was there, Rhonda, Michelle Puckett, Kathy Groninger, and I believe Alyssa joined virtually,
Okay,
as long as we could get the Zoom meeting to go.
okay.
Anyway, so one of the first questions that I had was the authorized representative, because the contract, it's not actually a contract, it's the agreement the commissioners signed, identified that it needed to have an authorized representative. And nothing has been designated there, so we probably need to designate an authorized representative. And that would be so that, all 7 of us don't call Tyler and say, oh, by the way, have you done this? And the auditor's office calls,
Fly.
glad to share the fly with you. It's been down here with Dave and I most of the evening, thanks. People thought I had a twitch, I didn't know.
It bothered me all evening.
So, anyway, I think that's something that does need to be established, is who's going to be the representative to contact them.
Okay, since you two work together on that, who would you like to establish as being the liaison?
I think Kathy has contacted them. For all of this contact has been done through Kathy. So, I would think it would make sense for Kathy to be that contact person. And this may be technical stuff. So like today, they were sending stuff to the auditor's office that needed to be done. So, and Becky had questions. So Becky just wrote those questions back. I think that's the exception to the rule. They're going to have some direct conversations with the auditor's office. But if there's any specific things that we're looking at that we're changing or that we want done differently, I think that Kathy should be the person who's
Okay,
taking care of that.
so your recommendation is to make Kathy the liaison between the auditor's office and Reedy?
Well, actually, I think the auditor's office can be in direct contact with
Yes.
them. It'd only be, I'd be,
We talked on the phone
Yeah.
with them several times today,
Right.
besides all the emails back and forth, so.
Yeah.
Our line of communication is clear.
right, yeah.
What would be nice
I'd be more for
is
the
if
county.
we, if you were just going to discuss something with them or have an idea, we don't necessarily need to be involved in that in the very beginning.
Right.
But when it gets to a final decision, if we could kind of have a little bit of heads up, so we kind of know what is going to be expected from us,
Right.
to help them achieve their goals for the
Yeah,
county.
that'd be great. I think that sounds
Okay.
perfect. Yeah.
I'll ask for a motion to make Kathy liaison, so it's just part of the minutes. Do we have a motion?
Are we doing this backwards? I'm sorry, but do we need a liaison if we don't approve this?
Well, the commissioners.
The commissioners have already approved it, the money's already in their budget, so it's happening.
We don't have a choice?
As far as everybody expressed their opinions at the work session, those that were in attendance.
I was in attendance virtually, but we're not allowed to talk. I'm opposed to this. I think we're doing something that is duplicating what the auditor's office has the ability to do, and it is nothing more than locking in Reedy to where we will never be able to get out of a contract with them because they have all of our figures.
Would we like to do a straw poll?
So So can we maybe work through the explanation and then we
I
can
read it.
do any other voting that might need to be done? Would that not make sense? I mean, then we've talked it out, so then everybody has, if you got questions or other things, we would be able to address it. So my question to them was, what would Reedy need from the auditor's office to make this whole project happen? The auditor's office would have to provide the current information, all the wage, who it is, retirement, all of that. And then any change that we would be doing would have to be sent to them. So we would have to share all of our data with them. It was also noted that we calculate salaries and pay every day in a year. We pay every day. Some places do biweekly and don't figure the extra day. And in 12 years, you've run yourself into the ground. You've got 2 weeks that you don't have the money to pay. That's how it was when I started at the auditor. I learned that lesson real quick. So we've always done that ever since then. So that is the other piece of that puzzle. So it's not really any different than what Reedy is already doing for us up to that point. Because at this point, we are sending that information to them anyway for them to do the budget projection. So that part doesn't change with this. So what would we be doing that's any different than what we're already doing? Well, Reedy would be taking that data that was provided by the auditor for the '24 budget after it's submitted, and that has to be done in the auditor's office in order to get it into the software. And that would arrive, that would fly, yes, I'm sorry. Reedy would be taking that data and doing the same calculation that the auditors would be doing to arrive at the '25 data for the budget. Then Reedy's figures would have to be verified to be sure that we're all on the same page. The auditor's office budget looks like what our budget does, what Reedy's budget projections would be. From that process, they would then be able to pull figures forward for future budget projections out to 5 years. That's the piece of the puzzle that we cannot do. Currently, we don't have the ability within the software to do it. It could be done. It would be a tedious process because you'd have to create a spreadsheet, which is the next question. That's exactly what they're going to do, is create a spreadsheet. And this would be able to show the long-range impact at a glance. So if you said the wage committee was going to do a 3% wage increase, you would see what the impact is this year. It would also ratchet it on out to the next year. So then they could also make an adjustment and say, okay, this is the new budget, and if they give another 3% this year, it's going to be this, and that would move on out to the next year. So it would give us the ability to look out 5 years for any changes in wages. And obviously, it would help with the long-range planning. If you can look at a piece of paper that gives you 5 years out, that's a tool, obviously. And then the other benefit would be, and we specifically asked this, so when the wage committee was meeting, if they said they wanted to do 2%, Reedy would be on the Zoom meeting with them and could do the calculation at that point and tell them instantaneously. Well, I think he said it might take him a few minutes, but it could be timely within a meeting scope to say, okay, if you want to do 1%, it's going to be this. And they say, no, well, now I think we'd really rather do 1.5%. So they can make that adjustment on the fly and be able to provide that information to the wage committee. So there are various different scenarios that they could work out. And, you know, every time we've talked about wages, we've gotten that information from the auditor's office that said this is a 1.35% raise and what that dollar amount is. But you don't know the big picture from that, because what they have to do, they'd have to go in and calculate that whole thing and then go back and change and recalculate it. It's just, internally, within the auditor's office. So, and the other thing to consider is that every one of these raises, all those positions that we talked about tonight, they're going to have to come in under the max levy. Well, I think if you add up everything there, just those positions that the wage committee had said would be approved, that's going to be way over the max levy all by itself, just my observation. Then if there's a plan to project out 5 years beyond the current, how would that be achieved? Well, there'd be no additional charge above the original agreement to include the figures in the budget projection moving forward if Reedy was not doing that calculation. But because that is the piece of the puzzle that we're paying for, basically, is that 5-year projection ability and the ability to look at those numbers quicker, basically. And all of this would obviously be able to create that 5-year plan, which would truly be a huge tool for us to be able to use. Could it be done internally? It probably could be done, but it would certainly be a large project for somebody to take on. And I don't know that we have anybody or any capacity to do that. That's that piece of the puzzle. And the other part of it is that my biggest concern was that if we were going to just turn this over to somebody else, that the auditor's office would lose the understanding of how to know whether it was right or not. I mean, we're going to have people turning over, positions coming and going. That is something the county can never lose. We have always got to be able to understand how that process works. That is, of all the things that's critical, that is critical to the county and the well-being of the finances of the county. So, I mean, that's the side of it that is still going to happen because it has to happen. Then as we continue to talk, and I'll just throw this out here as a closing thought, as we continue to talk, because at one point, we were kind of back and forth, okay, so is all this going to replace what we're doing with Wagner and Shealy? Because at one point, it was kind of touted that that could maybe help with that. But Wagner and Shealy's program is 110% different than what this is. This is only taking existing numbers, applying a percentage, and moving it on out through the years. The Wagner and Shealy program takes the job description, gives it value points, identifies what pay buckets it should be in and what classes it should be in. And so because of that breakdown, it gives us those various different buckets and also allows us to separate it out by the number of years of their longevity for the changes that we make for the years that they've served. So, I mean, all of that, and the other thing that we did discuss, you know, it had been 20 years since we did the first wage study, and then nothing was done with it. And it was adopted at 5% less than what it was instructed to be at that point. I was the auditor then. I know that's what they did. The council didn't think that they could do that. It was too much money, and so they just didn't adopt it as high. And good for them because they didn't have the money, so they didn't have any choice. It wasn't really an option, but that's why it was less. But we've now gone 6 years, and we still have not made any movement to try to redo that, to have that study done again. Michelle had done some research, because I think at our meeting it was thrown out that it had cost $100,000. Cost of it was $37,000. And that was almost like starting from scratch because we had added so many new people. They had bits and pieces of it, but times had changed, wages changed, and so on and so on. Anyway, based on that, the cost would surely be less. I did speak to Kathy Reed, because when we talked, we said maybe we should just get Kathy to get us an estimate of what having Wagner and Shealy do a redo on it. And I mean, logic would say it ought to be somewhere around half of the 37, so it might be another 15. But it seems to me like because we know that was the problem, we never went back to the market to figure out what wages should be, number one. And number two, we just let it go too long. And we don't want to step in that same hole and make that same mistake and cause down the road additional councils to have that same jump off the cliff that we had when we had to take on that change.
But that's still going to be needed, correct?
Yes, yes. So this is my personal opinion, and I know nobody really wants to hear my opinion, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Because that is something that I think is needed, it is possible for us to put that into the 25 budget, into the council's budget, because then we would know the money was there, we would know that we had the ability to do it. And obviously, the commissioners would have to sign the contract. That's not taking anything away from the commissioners. But that way, that contractual amount would be set aside in our budget and clearly identified.
For Wagner Irwin Shealy to
Wagner
do
and Shealy
another
to do it. Yep.
wage study. Okay, so my question is this. You pointed out that the auditor's office is going to be responsible for making sure that Reedy does their job correctly and that everything is entered correctly. So my thought is, if they're going to spend all this time double-checking Reedy, they could use that same time to build a spreadsheet where it builds it out 5 years. Are you following me? I mean, if we have to prove everything Reedy does,
Well, it's not really that they're,
I don't,
Well, the bottom line is you would be able to look at the totals, but you have to be sure that each individual person's wage is correct with what Lau says, because Lau is the gospel. Doesn't make any difference what gets to Reedy and what Reedy calculates. Lau would wind up being our gospel based on what we put in there and what we approved at the budget time.
I understand that, and I understand that they can do a couple things different. What I'm saying is that we seem to contract out a lot of things. And I just did want to point out respectfully that just because the commissioner said that it's okay, the council is the one that allocates the dollars. We don't have to do this, even if the commissioner said that they're fine with it. They allocated money for something that's never happened through the redevelopment commission. It doesn't have to happen. It just means that they're blessing it if you wanted to move forward.
I guess one thing I'd like to add to what Sue Ann had to say is when we met, one thing I was really impressed with is they did give us like a breakdown on all the employees, and they specified that the information that we get will be department-specific, fund-specific, and, like, they gave us an example of what they're providing for other counties and governmental entities, but if we need other information, it's simple for them to actually be able to change their spreadsheet so that we can have more current information. So basically, I just want to say thank you for the commissioners approving it, because it's a tool for our strategic planning, and it's also going to be a tool for the wage committee. And there may be instances where, and it's not to say that the auditor's office can't do it, but like Sue Ann was trying to say, could be an issue of capacity. Like, do they really have the time for that? I mean, I felt like when we met as a group, everyone was on board and thought it was a good idea. So the group that met, I felt like when we walked away, everybody was like, yeah, I think this is going to be a great benefit to the council.
And we knew a lot less than we know now. This is no different than private industry when you hire a financial consultant to have another set of eyes to critique what you've always been doing, or no different than an individual with a retirement portfolio that hires a financial advisor to look through it, and basically doing some of the same things that you could do yourself, but they're bringing to the table expertise in areas that you may not fully be aware of. My hopes with Reedy is they're going to bring things to the table that we are not aware of. They possibly could find additional or new funding sources for labor, which is our largest cost in this county. And I think it's something, since we have them doing the analysis, our financial analysis now, this would be another piece of the puzzle. And, we have never really been big in my tenure with strategic planning. Now that is, come to the forefront. We're working on our 5 and 10 year plans, and this would fit in with that.
There was some discussion earlier about the value of reading. There was some hesitation on some of the council members on whether or not it was worth what we were paying them. Has that ever been resolved?
I believe at the last meeting we had with what they provided, the feedback that I'm getting from individuals and different department heads was that it seems to be moving in the right direction. They are providing us with more useful information. And would there, I mean, please.
Well, and
Everyone else
they
show your
provided a budget book, or not a budget book, a book to show what they were doing with this, another binder. And if you weren't there, obviously, you didn't get the binder. Did we get binders for them?
I was there.
You were there.
Yeah, she did.
Did Kim get a binder? Okay, okay. So I'm just going to tell you honestly, I believe the cart got before the horse. I shared that with Mike before they went to the commissioners, that was backwards.
Yep.
The council should have ruled on it before it went to the commissioners, because this is a council project. If the commissioners wanted to do it after we had said no, that would have made this look a little bit different tonight. And it probably would be a great thing for the commissioners. Because if the commissioners are trying to do strategic planning, trying to figure out where money's going, it might be a great project for them. But for what it's going to do for us, I'm just not sure that the value is there for us. The value may well be there for the commissioners.
I guess this, as far as the cart and the horse here, a little bit, I think at the meeting when they first presented it, I think everybody was, wow, you know, that may be something we want to look at. And then we started talking about, oh, that's something we should try to include if we're going to do it in the 2025 budget process. And I think they made the comment that, or I believe they made the comment that it would take be about a 2-week turnaround. And I think, Sue Ann, you were sitting beside me and you said, well, that's not too bad. So then we started kind of pushing that ahead, you know, and I went and I believe I visited with our county administrator and, you know, asked, you know, if the commissioners were to approve this, do you have the funding in your budget? And yes, we do, but, you know, she didn't want to ask for an additional appropriation.
Well-
So at that point in time, it wasn't really, to get it started, you know, I felt it really wasn't as much a council decision as it was a commissioner's decision as to whether to do it or not. And when we went to the commissioners' meeting and made the presentation, you know, Brad said, I'd kind of like a straw count, you know, where's everybody at on this? And at that point in time, I believe I was where Kim was possibly on with it. I was on with it. Kathy was on with it, and I think you spoke, Sue Ann spoke favorably.
I said that I
With
had
caveat.
questions that
With
we
a
needed to
caveat,
get
yes.
answered.
Yes.
And
I think
this
that's
is
what got
just,
them to do it.
yeah, and this is the other piece of the puzzle. When the commissioners approved it, the only thing that really told them about what was going to be done is the bottom 3 lines on that first piece of paper that I gave you. That was the only piece that laid out what they were going to do.
And isn't
that's-
that why you
And there's a
wanted
whole lot more, and that's the
description?
reason why I had the
And-
questions.
And that's when you voiced your opinion that you know, we really need to have this spelled out. And then at our work session meeting, you know, I looked at Sue Ann, I said, would you like to be part of a committee, if you will, to, you know, lay out the guidelines for Reedy for this? And she said, yes. And I asked Kathy, and Kathy said, yes. So they, on their own, called a meeting, which, I mean, I think the timeline, you know, we're trying to push the timeline ahead here, so it's available for 25 budgeting if we're gonna do it, which obviously now it looks like we are going to do it. But I think everybody was under the pressure to get something done, and you had a meeting Tuesday?
Yeah.
Tuesday, so that was, I mean, they got the meeting together really fast to lay out guidelines for Reedy, so we get some value out of it.
And
Tony wanted to say something.
I was just
Yes,
saying,
Tony.
and I'm going to say that in my opinion, I think that the value in addition to saving time at the auditor's office, the value is the commissioner's strategic plan, because we know that it's been on a piece of paper for years, but it's never been in a book, it's never been shared. We need to actually have a 1, 3, 5, 7, 10-year plan and not just have something in people's heads, which is, I mean, we're doing great with that, but I believe what Sue Ann was saying is that I believe that I felt like bringing in Reedy would help them to put something on paper structurally going forward. And I think that was a consensus between Kathy and Sue Ann, at least, that we would like to see that, because all of us sitting on the strategic plan committees in the past have seen the list, and we talk about things, but it's really nice to see where we're going to get the money, where it's going to be placed in a year, in an actual calendar year, if we can, if we can get the money that they're going to project. I think that adds value to me.
Plus having them in the individual funds. Showing
Correct.
exactly where it's, what department it's going to be coming from.
Correct.
Well,
and what fund.
it has to come
Right.
separately. I mean, that's how budgets are. You can't, the general fund is all just what comes out of the general fund. So that has to happen. I mean, there's no other way to do it but that. There is one other little piece of the puzzle that having them do it does not mean we're turning over our life to them. It may seem like it, but it's not, because everything that's happening in Lao still has to happen. So if we tried it for a year and it brought some pleasure and we figured out that it was a good thing, we've tried it for a year. And if at the end of 1 year, we look at it and say, that is zero help to us, that might be a way to look at it. We're not taking it on for life. And I believe that we only had to pay them 1 year to get this
Yeah.
set up, and then it would be back to our regular contract. This was only to establish the 5-year plan. Am I not
Yeah,
remembering
it's
that
it's
correctly?
One-time
basically a
charge,
special
one-time
project.
setup charge.
And they
one-time
said that if
charge.
we change, it's included in our.
You're going to have to raise your hand, Tony, otherwise you're never going to get called on.
Tony?
Okay. Reading through this, I was here for the Reedy meeting, and I was
So
at
was I.
the workshop last week, or the pre-meeting last week, and talked about this. What I'm seeing out of the questions that were asked and the responses from Reedy is the only thing we're gonna get out of that $15,000 is 5-year projections. We're getting nothing else, because everything else is already being done in Rhonda's office.
Yep,
Not
Not the
necessarily.
strategic plan for capital
Not,
improvements.
but
which
we're
is-
talking, but this is for salary stuff.
This,
This
just
is what
this,
Reedy
Ken.
was about salaries. And again, the only thing I've seen we're getting for $15,000, unless I'm misinterpreting something, is that we'll get a 5-year kind of window on what we could look at wages, but we're getting nothing else because everything else is already being done in the auditor's office.
Well, we're also getting help on the wage committee too, which, I do think will be helpful. The fact that they can, when we're discussing things, sometimes you might have a situation where a department, for example, the sheriff's department may need something different. So whatever we decide to do may not be across the board. So it'd be more individualized, specific, information that is just a lot to ask for the auditors to have to do. I mean, it's not that they can't do it, but like, it's the capacity, the ability to actually do all this extra stuff. And for $15,000, it's not a lot of money for a one-time fee to, have them basically at our fingertips to be able to help us.
It's something we never really have done in the past is, this treats each department individually, and I'm not advocating for treating each department individually, but it allows us that opportunity to take a look at, what if we did this for this department and this for this department? So it's going to kind of add that in there as well. And Tony, I'm not an advocate for Reedy long-term at all. I want to see results. And I believe at our last meeting where we had the joint meeting with commissioners, we all agreed that it was getting better.
Oh, that
I mean,
was
it
much
takes
better
a
than
while
what
for
we
them to
started
build
out.
up.
Correct. So it's going to be a painful learning experience until everyone's up to speed. But, Reedy's not going to walk in the door tomorrow and take over and go A to Z. It's going to take time, working with our auditor's office and working with the county and learning how we do things. And we may be unique enough to where they can help us. But I want to see, if they bring value to the table, then it's money well spent. If we continue to do the same thing year after year, we're not gonna know.
Right, I understand that
And
point.
it's getting more complicated every year. Our workforce is obviously gonna getting bigger. So, you know, it's not a bad thing to have not an expert set, but another set of eyes.
I agree with that,
Yeah.
to a point, but I mean, you know,
Sure.
but currently, if we go into this agreement with them, then we're putting more work on Rhonda and her staff to provide them the information too.
I don't know,
Yes.
are we, Rhonda, would you like to voice your opinion?
I have to defer to the girls that are actually
Okay.
doing it. Yes.
Short-term or long-term or permanently?
Both.
Well, I just know with the requests and the conversations that we had back and forth today, the information that they want, we're going to try to get it to them as quickly as possible, of course. But I do believe it's probably gonna take maybe 2 to 3 days.
Mhm.
And that might not be somebody working on it 7.5 hours every day, but we have to still do the other things that we have to do also.
Do you feel long-term it could possibly save the auditor's office time?
I can't
Extreme,
I can't say that because I don't know where it's going. Once we provide the information, maybe they'll figure out how to get it themselves from other resources.
And
You
I
know,
don't believe,
there's all kinds of options on the way that they could
Right.
get their, information that we're giving them. So as far as that question, I can't answer that.
but I believe, you know, I don't know if anybody here could answer the question as to, you know,
Not
Is it
a
gonna
mind
save us
reader.
time?
I can't read the future. None of us
Right.
can, unfortunately.
but I really think it's going to bring, you know, we seem to be in the last year or two now, we're all about long-term goals. You know, keeping our buildings up, you know, keeping things in order. And this is just another part of that plan moving forward to keep our house in order all the time, or at least most of the time. Not saying it's been out of order, but just as a tool that the commissioners have so graciously agreed to for the council. Did the cart get before the horse? Did things happen backwards? Possibly. And if that's my fault, I'll own it. You know, so here we are and we need to move forward one way or another.
And the bottom line financially is this is 15,000 on top of the 60,000 we're already paying them.
Right.
So
It's a one-time
it's a
fee.
lot of money, yeah.
It's a lot of money. And I believe the commissioners, when they talked about the Reedy contract for this year, it was only through '24. So, you know, this will be looked at again in a new year. In
And-
the new year, we'll have possibly, you know, well, it looks to be, like we'll have a new commissioner.
And what might happen is that once we got that information with the 5-year layout, because I did ask if this was proprietary software, and no, it's not. They're doing it on an Excel spreadsheet. So once we got our 5-year layout, then it might be that we could dig into it and figure out how to do it ourselves.
Well, once they do that, once we've got that information, then it's basically done. You know what I mean?
But obviously, up until everything's running, it's gonna be a little painful. You know?
It can't ever totally be done because things change all
Well,
throughout
but
the
I mean,
year.
That's the one-time fee, and when you have new employees, it'll be,
They're building them
individual. There will be no extra cost to keep it maintained.
I understand, but there's still going to be the workload on the auditor's office every year to provide them with all the information. I love Sue Ann's thing. So we're basically handing them our watch and asking them to tell us what time it is. That's all we're doing. And I have some real reservations.
Well, I
but-
mean, time will tell. I hope you're wrong, but time will tell.
But wouldn't we be better off to invest our money with Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy? To keep that current?
Well, they're doing different things.
Yeah, I know they're different things, but, you know, when you look at the wage committee recommendations tonight, they're talking about Pat and all those kind of things. You know, it's been 6 years now since that's been done. And how many new employees have we brought in? How many changes we've made in personnel over the years? You know, that ought to be something that ought to be like within the strategic plan, be every couple, 3 years that be looked at.
That was, I think Michelle said because that was in Michelle's time, I believe she said that they had recommended 3 to 4 years. And so we've gone 6. So if we set it at 6, I mean, that's better than running 20
But
to
we
try and play
can
catch
always
up.
add that in our budget for 25, like Sue Ann said. We can
Right.
always add that.
And I think you can hear it in my voice. I'm torn both ways. I don't know the value because we haven't saw it yet.
Right.
And how many of you have looked detailed into the books that you got? Has anybody had time to really dig into them and
I looked at
study them? Yeah.
Did we get an answer back from Kathy on what Wagner Urban Shealy wants to do that again?
No, they haven't got back with her. I do apologize. We had that meeting on Tuesday. We talked about it. And until today, I had not asked Kathy. I did call her this afternoon.
Okay.
And she said she would send the email and would call them and speak with them about it.
Well, I
So
just-
That's on me.
No,
That's on
no,
me.
it's just that was kind of an open-ended comment. So I was trying to figure
Yeah.
out if we were, where we
No.
were on getting an answer.
We don't have a dollar figure
Okay,
yet.
thank you.
Sorry.
Now, while we're all sitting here talking, it's my understanding that for the past couple of years, we haven't ran a lot of our new job descriptions and that through Wagner Irwin?
No.
We did not run a couple of them. If they were a
Okay.
minor change, where it was basically a clerical, there was no reason to pay them. And we don't ever see those bills either. The wage committee does not see those bills.
Right, correct.
Do you have any idea what it costs to send one of those off? I don't. Marcia is the only one that has any idea.
Correct.
Yes.
Those bills are sent to HR has to verify the charges, and then they're sent back and we pay it.
Okay, but we don't still, the wage committee does not know what those are, because I always question that. What are we paying them to look at these? I still don't know, because we were never provided with that information.
We may not have ever asked.
I did, but that's okay, that's irrelevant. But bottom line, that is something that would be very important, in my opinion, for the wage committee to know.
Absolutely.
Because every time you send one of those off, there is a bill that goes with that. And like I said, when Sue Ann and I were on there, we looked at, and if it was mainly changing a title or changing something, but we weren't changing pay, there's no reason to send that off.
Right.
I mean, that makes no sense. Sometimes it was correcting typos or leaving a word out. So I mean, we tried to use good common sense as to whether or not it was worth it to incur that fee. But we did not totally just go out on a rogue, oh, let's just change everything and we don't need them either. But also
So we didn't always use
understand that I had a master's degree in HR, which, yeah, so I mean, I understand a lot of that because I have a lot of background. So what were you saying, Kathy?
Oh, so we didn't always use them in every instance.
The only time we didn't was for clerical errors or something that we didn't need examined. There's no reason to send it to them for them to rubber stamp what we already knew.
If the job is the same as the girl that's sitting next to them,
Right.
there's no
Right.
reason to send it.
Yeah.
When we created new positions and they had the same job descriptions, it was going to come back the same because they're doing the same things. It had the same thing in the job description, so.
I have a question for the ARPA committee. Did the ARPA committee decide to stay the nonprofit requests from the prior year if they got money, like they did in the prior year? Or are they considering their requests that they asked? Does anybody know that?
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's a commissioner question.
Hey, Kara, do you know, did the ARPA committee, did they make a decision to not consider additional requests from the nonprofits like they did in prior years if they got ARPA funds? Or are they allowing them to request additional funds if they got?
ARPA is closed.
So 24, ARPA's closed, there's no money going out at all?
Well, we got a meeting at 17.
Right.
But at this point, we're not opening it up, it's still determined, but at this point, I think what monies are left will be used for county project.
Right, I understand that, but if they got money in 24,
As far as our nonprofits.
Yes.
The only thing we did last year was just whether or not we got an increase or how much. the increase.
right, because you guys like put a stay on that?
Commissioner did not make a decision on
Okay,
nonprofits.
that was my question, thank you.
And that's something that will come with the budget process. So they'll give us a recommendation, I would guess, by then.
Yeah, the commissioner meeting, they heard everything we heard today.
Right, yeah.
So, did you get to listen? I didn't think you had the link.
I didn't have the link to our budget thing, to our Wednesday. The pre-budget budget, or whatever.
Okay,
Okay,
gotcha.
are we finished with Reedy then?
No, we
Discussion?
have to vote on it.
No, we don't.
Well, I think
I don't think,
whatever's your flavor.
I didn't think.
Well, how about if I do the simple piece of it for the Wagner Erwin Shealy? I would move that we include money for Wagner Erwin Shealy in our 25 budget when it is found out what it is to be. And even if we put it in and it's a crazy amount, we don't have to approve it. But it's there and we would have the ability to approve it if we needed to.
I second that if that's a motion.
That was,
We have a motion, a second. All those in favor? Okay. Now, do we need to vote on I mean, it's really a done deal. The money's in their budget. Carrie, would you like to add anything to this?
I mean, just what I don't want is, the council sees no value in this. Commissioners were doing that because we thought this would, we believe, and still believe, or I believe, it would still add value to the county to be able to look at our expense, what we have for labor or for our employees, and making sure we're using those dollars to its fullest extent from perspective. That is our largest line item that we have in our budget, so when we start talking about percentage or half percentages, that's a big swing back and forth. But if the council says, hey, that's not what they want, I mean, it's more of a tool for you guys and how you can make those financial decisions. I know we have our strategic committee as well, that's big, but, I personally see value in it, that I think that it's a tool for us to be able to look further out in the future, to forecast what those costs are gonna be, and what, so we can make sure what we're doing is sustainable. It's right now, and it's kind of like some days you're eating chicken, some days you're eating feathers, depending upon what taxes might be coming in, so we wanna make sure that we're
Tom
creating a system that is sustainable long-term. I think this is one of those things that doesn't just give us a snapshot today, it gives us something to be able to look a lot further down range to make sure we have the funding and the revenue streams in the future to be able to continue to fund at its current level or raises that we're going to project into the future. But, if it's something the council isn't in favor of, I mean, we've got other things we can do with the money, so we were being gracious because we really felt it was a tool. In fact, the meeting we had with Reedy, I thought there was a lot of positive things. I seen a lot of good information that they're providing to us to be able to look forward. But obviously, there's differences of opinion around the table, and, everybody has an opportunity to do that, so let's see. Let's get on and vote and figure out where we're going.
Yep. Thank you, Carrie. Is there anyone else that would like to add anything before we go to a vote?
Can I ask a silly question? I think it's silly,
We never
but,
turn silly questions.
okay, that's good. When we have positions that are funded through grants, do we take into consideration that that is not coming out of actual, I mean, it has to go through here, but it's being reimbursed? Is that ever notated anywhere? Where? Somebody?
Wanda?
Anybody?
Michelle?
so,
Each one of those grant funds have their own designated fund number, but every grant depends on how it's written. If the wages and benefits both are coming out of the grant, then it is all run through that number. Sometimes it's just the wages and not the benefits, so then county general or another fund will pick up those benefits. But yes, we do track where those wages and benefits come from. And as far as the long term of those positions in the grant, it's always based off of what you decide when you allow them to apply for the grant. If they will stay long-term because the grant goes away, or if they will be removed when the grant goes away.
Okay, so looking at a 5-year projection, how are they going to do that?
Well, they would only be doing the funds that are taxable funds.
Okay, so they would ignore
That's
all the
what they're gonna look
grant-funded
at.
positions?
Right, right, because that has no bearing, the general fund doesn't bear any grants.
See, I said it was a
The health
silly
department-
question because I figured it was, but I wanted to make sure.
The health department's money doesn't bear any grants. They do, but they're setting, as Michelle's saying, on a separate line, a separate fund.
Okay.
And that's all totally separate.
you.
So, yeah.
Okay, anything, if nothing additional, I believe we should take this to vote. So with that,
I'll make a motion to approve it.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor signify by usual.
I feel like if I vote yes, everybody's going to think, well, she's going to be a commissioner, and that's why she wants to do it. And if I vote no, it goes the other way.
Would you like
And I
to
can't
abstain?
abstain, well, I can't because I've already run my mouth this whole time, so sorry. You know me, I'm painfully honest. I am truthfully torn. At this point, I think I would have to vote in favor of it and do it one time, the $15,000 that we spend. Once we're done with it, we're done with it. It's going to continue. We don't pay any more to get it done again, ever. And we see what value that it actually has.
Okay,
But I would hope, and I'm going to say this, I would hope this would be a lesson that we realize the right order to do things in, because that's critical.
Okay.
Because this would not have been this long of a discussion.
okay. So with that, motion,
No, you get it, you have to go through the whole thing. We have a right to vote no.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So my vote was yes.
okay, so we have those opposed. Okay, so motion carries. All right, thank you. Now, in other business, any other business anyone else has to come before the council?
Tony, did you want to talk about the mayor board since you're our representative at all? The retirement
They did
meeting?
have the merit board meeting today. They had representatives from Creedy Keene there who oversees the pension. Went through the projections for the actual years from '23 and projections for '25. Currently, that fund sits at about 97.5% solvent. So it's in really good financial shape. Their projection on market values and shares and stuff they buy is like 6.5% income, and they've been averaging at or a little bit more. Everything is funded at 100% or better, so it's in really, really good shape.
And they said that the average county is about 75% funded, and we're at, so we really.
Really good.
Yeah.
Good.
It was a good meeting.
Good news, thank you.
And they provided us all
Oh.
of the copies.
It was amazing.
Mine is already gone. I'd be glad to share it, if you want copies of it, just color on it.
Okay,
Can I just make one comment too? Sure. I just wanted to, okay, the county, you guys probably all got this email, but the county parks board is working through a Greenway and Blueway master planning process. The design firm that they are working with put together a trip down the Tippy River with Tippy River Adventures. You guys probably all got invited to that.
Yeah.
Well, and the purpose of that trip was to finalize routes and amenities down that corridor, and I attended that. And I just wanted to say thank you, first off, for the Parks Board for inviting us, and also I want to say thank you for Tippy River Adventures for hosting us and taking us on the tour. And I just wanted to say what a great job the Tippy River Adventures is doing, and just encourage everyone. I want to give them a hat tip and say, go online, schedule a trip down the Tippy River. It's really neat, and they're doing a great job. And so I just wanted to say thank you for inviting us, and it was awesome.
And can I also comment that I think it's very, very gracious of the Groningers. They are allowing the Tippy River Adventures to launch there and store their kayaks at that property. And I know we have agreed, Truex Farms allows them to come out of the second.
Yeah.
Did
second
you do
phase.
the first or the second?
We did the first phase, and I wanted to thank you, Joni, for allowing them to come
Oh.
out of the second phase.
Not a problem, but, yeah, but I just think it's really neat that everybody's working
Yeah, and
towards
it's
doing
really
something
neat. So
really fun.
Get online, you can book a trip, and it's really neat, Tippy River Adventures.
Okay, a couple things that I have is I'll seek further input from any council member or anyone else for that matter. KCC RVC appointment to replace Jessica Hartman. She's been asked to leave her position at Comfort Inn.
Oh.
So have to be looking for a replacement for her. Pearson Library is looking for a replacement for Helen Hall. So if anyone has any ideas of who that might be or know of someone,
Do you want somebody in a hotelier, or are you looking for anyone in the,
I believe that was the scope of
It
the
has
first
to be the
search.
scope. Tourism.
okay, but it could be somebody in a restaurant, or, I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah, it can't be because the city's appointment was the Augustus and guy.
Okay,
So you would prefer, if we already have a
There's a
restaurant,
percent-
possibly
there's
a
a
hotel?
There's a percentage, isn't there a percentage that is a
It just
makeup
has to be
of the-
hospitality,
It
I
just has to be
believe.
hospitality.
Well,
So
anyhow,
Should they give me the
yes,
name
they
to
could,
you?
if they could give, email me names or possibilities, then I can contact whoever and see if they're
I have
interested in serving.
I have a
and then we-
name I can send you.
And then we can bring it before the council.
What about the Pearson Library Board? Do they need to be in Pearson?
Yes, they have to live in the town of Pearson.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
They haven't
no,
found anybody?
They, because Washington Township funds them as well. So I think they just have to be in Washington Township.
Okay.
That's off the top of my head. I don't know.
Okay, and if there's nothing else, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All
Wow.
those in favor?
You lost your, oh, was it you that's supposed to?
Thank you, everyone, for the marathon session.
Who was supposed to do that? Somebody was delegated to.
What's that?
Oh, it was you. Remember Tom? Tom, yeah. He lived for that, that's what he wanted to do. I'm not.
Yeah. No, Tom was always there, that was it. Time to go, got a ball game on.